Countless women who heard the news were green with envy. Everyone was wondering who the lucky woman was, the one whose man would drop millions in a single night to book the entire Sky Garden just to show her how much he loved her. A lot of people couldn't wait for the big day to finally see who it was. To keep his identity a secret, Charlie had Isaac make special arrangements for the entire Sky Garden. He was also really looking forward to their anniversary. He wanted to give Claire the grand wedding they never had. Early the next morning, Charlie left the house and headed to a dealership. He had a bank card with $10 billion on it that he hadn't really used yet. This time, he was going to buy Claire a nice, respectable luxury car. His first thought was to go all out and buy her one of the top luxury cars. But after thinking it over, he realized a car that expensive would be hard to explain. Besides, Claire had always been a low-key person. Even if she owned a car that fancy, she'd probably never be comfortable driving it. So he decided to get his wife a business sedan worth around $500,000. It would be impressive, but not too flashy, and more practical. She wouldn't be so worried about it getting scratched or dented. It was the kind of car a lot of business people drove, so it had a good reputation. Plus, it was a roomy sedan, perfect for his wife. When he got to the car showroom, he parked his little e-bike by the door and walked inside. A few salespeople inside saw a customer walk in, and a couple of them started to head over. But then a woman in the back said quickly, "Hey, that guy pulled up on an e-bike. He's probably just here for the free AC and Wi-Fi. Just ignore him." As soon as they heard he came on an e-bike, the other salespeople lost interest. Lately, with the hot weather, they'd been getting a lot of broke people coming in just to hang out in the air conditioning. Sometimes they'd even sit in the show cars and refuse to leave until security had to escort them out. It was a huge annoyance for the sales staff. Charlie, on his e-bike and dressed in his regular clothes, didn't exactly stand out. He didn't look like someone who could afford a car. Nobody paid any attention to him, but Charlie didn't care. He walked right over to the display area for the model he wanted and saw that the price ranged from around $300,000 to over $600,000. The model over $600,000 was the top of the line, the extended executive version. Honestly, the car looked really good. The price of over $600,000 wasn't too outrageous, and he figured Claire would be okay with it. So he spoke up. "Do you have the top-of-the-line sedan in stock? I'd like to buy it now." The salespeople all looked at him like he was an idiot. One of them said with a sneer, "Did you even see the price? Did you count all the zeros?" Charlie frowned and looked at the salesman. $618,000. Yeah, I saw it. The man scoffed. "You saw it? Are you dreaming? Can you actually afford it? We bring out the bill, you have to swipe your card. And with everyone watching, it's going to be pretty embarrassing when you can't pay." Charlie asked coldly, "Are you sick or something? Did you forget your meds this morning? You want me to call 911 and have an ambulance take you away?" The salesman just grunted. "Yeah, right. Don't try that with me. Believe me, I can have security throw you out of here in a second. Just some broke guy who came in to freeload off the AC and Wi-Fi, pretending to be a big shot." Instead of getting angry, Charlie just laughed. He asked the salesman, "If you sell this car, what's your commission?" The guy said dismissively, "I'd make $10,000. Charlie nodded. "Well, you just lost $10,000. With that, Charlie turned and walked out. On his way, he passed the store manager who was just coming in. The name on his badge read, WIB, Sales Manager. Charlie stopped him. "Are you the person in charge here?" "Yes," WIB nodded. "How can I help you?" Charlie pointed back at the rude salesman. "You should probably fire that guy. As long as he's working here, he's just going to hurt the business of your car dealership." When the salesman heard this, he ran over. Manager Wibb, don't listen to his nonsense. This guy's crazy. He just came in to use the free AC. Charlie just smiled. If I'm just a bum, you'll see. After saying that, he walked out and went straight to the showroom next door. As soon as he got to the store, Charlie spotted one of the most luxurious models, a 760. It was the top-of-the-line model of the 7 Series, the most expensive model the brand makes. It had a 12-cylinder engine, which was incredibly powerful, and the inside was just pure luxury. He was feeling angry now. Did those idiots really look down on him? Fine. He decided he would buy this car just to show them. After all, he had more than enough money. So he walked right up to the salesperson and asked, "This car, can I drive it off the lot today?" The young woman was stunned. "Sir, this car just got to the showroom today. Are you sure you want to buy it?" "Yes," Charlie nodded. "I'm sure. Let's run the card." "What? This car is $2.6 million. The salesperson was completely speechless. She'd been selling cars for a long time and had never seen a customer just walk in and ask to swipe their card without even a test drive. Was this guy just messing with her? Charlie smiled. "I know. I saw the price. Just tell me if you're selling it or not." "Sell it? Of course we'll sell it," the young woman said excitedly. "Right this way, please." Just like that, she led him through the process. Charlie swiped his card, paid, and got the keys, all in one quick move. When the $2.6 million car rolled out, the people back at the previous brand's dealership looked absolutely stunned. Charlie drove the car right up to the entrance of the store, popped the trunk, tossed his e-bike inside, and then drove off with a flourish. The salesman who had looked down on Charlie was speechless. Manager Wibb, standing right next to him, said with a cold expression, "Go to HR and get your final paycheck. You're fired." "Manager, get out!" The other employees at the dealership were also completely shocked. Damn, nobody would have guessed that the guy on an e-bike was so loaded he'd just drop over $2.6 million on a car and buy it on the spot. The salesman who had insulted Charlie was filled with regret. Not only had he lost a huge customer and tens of thousands in commission, but he'd also lost his job. If only he hadn't been so quick to judge. As Charlie drove the car away, he started to feel that maybe he'd been a little impulsive. He wasn't worried about the money, but the car was just so expensive. How was he going to explain this to Claire? $2.6 million doesn't just fall out of the sky. After thinking about it, a great idea popped into his head. He drove to a roadside auto body shop and spent $20 to have the owner swap the 760 emblem for a 521 from the same manufacturer. Both series looked very similar. The main differences were on the inside, so most people couldn't tell them apart just by looking, except for the emblem on the back. Charlie drove the car, thinking to himself that Claire didn't know much about cars and wouldn't pay close attention anyway. If he told her it was a different model, she probably wouldn't know the difference. The owner of the auto body shop smacked his lips and thought to himself that the guy seemed honest enough, but he clearly had a sneaky side. Deliberately changing a top-of-the-line 760 car to look like a modest 520, he must be a wolf in sheep's clothing. After sorting out the car, Charlie remembered that his friend Darren White's restaurant was having its grand opening at noon today, and he still needed to get him a gift. He remembered how Darren was the only classmate who was ever really good to him back in college, so he drove straight to a large art consignment shop and spent $200,000 on an early painting by an early American artist named Harvey Pike. Harvey Pike wasn't very famous, so most people wouldn't recognize his work. He bought the old painting for 2 reasons. First, he wanted to give Darren a meaningful, substantial gift. But second, he didn't want anyone else to know how much the painting was actually worth. He figured if anyone asked, he could just play it off and say it only cost a few $1,000s. By the time he bought the painting, it was almost noon. Charlie called his wife, Claire, and told her he would pick her and Elsa up from the Emgrand group. When he pulled up, Claire saw that Charlie was actually driving a new car. She stared at Charlie, dumbfounded, and asked in shock, "Where did this car come from?" Charlie smiled. "I bought it, for you." "You bought it?" Claire was even more surprised. "Where did you get the money?" "From my personal savings," Charlie said. "Look, I've been with the Wilson family for so long, and I didn't spend a dime when we got married. All these years, I've eaten their food, lived in their house, and used their stuff. Is it really so strange that I managed to save up some money of my own?" Claire replied, "But if you saved money, you should have kept it. Why would you buy such an expensive car? This must have cost $400,000. Charlie smiled and said, "You're my wife. If I'm not going to spend my savings on you, who would I spend it on? Besides, you're a director now and you don't have a car. It doesn't look professional and people will talk." At this time, Elsa also chimed in. "Claire, you really do need a car for work. This one is perfect for you. Charlie is obviously thinking about you, so you should be happy." Claire nodded, very moved. "Charlie, thank you." Charlie gently squeezed her hand and said with a smile, "Hey, why are you being so formal with your husband?" After speaking, he turned to both of them and said, "Let's head straight to Darren's restaurant." Claire quickly asked, "Did you get him a gift?" "I bought one," Charlie said. "I got him a painting." "A painting?" Claire asked curiously. "What kind of painting?" Charlie said, "It's one of those old-looking paintings from the vintage market. I think it's a painting of pomegranates, which are supposed to symbolize good fortune, wealth, and prosperity. It seemed nice, so I bought it." Claire asked, "How much did you buy it for?" "A few thousand." Claire nodded and said with a smile, "Then you probably got ripped off. You can't buy any real ancient paintings for just a few $1,000s. Charlie said with a smile, "It doesn't matter. It's the thought that counts. The gesture is what's important." Claire nodded in agreement and said, "You're right. It's the sentiment that matters. Let's go straight to the restaurant now." Darren's newly opened restaurant was in the development zone of Eris Hill City. The zone was far from the city center, a wide-open area with a lot of land and not many people. Charlie was a little puzzled why Darren would choose to open a restaurant way out here. However, he'd heard from Claire that several large manufacturing companies had recently set up shop in the development zone, including huge corporations like Apple, which would be up and running soon. So Darren was actually pretty smart to open his restaurant here now. Darren's place, the Moonlight Bistro, sat on the edge of a wide new street. It looked pretty big with 2 full stories, and the name had a nice, artistic ring to it. When Charlie pulled up to the restaurant, a line of cars was already parked out front. A few guys were standing around a gold luxury car, smoking and chatting. Charlie recognized them. They were all classmates from college, but he wasn't really friends with any of them. He definitely remembered the guy leading the group. His name was Gavin Sawyer, who had been one of the well-known rich kids in their class back in the day. He'd always had a thing for Claire, but she never gave him the time of day. Right then, Gavin was leaning against his gold car, soaking in the compliments from his classmates. A couple of the guys were going on about his new sedan. "Gavin, man, you're really a winner. Driving a car this expensive right after graduating? That looks like the 540, right? The top of the 5 Series?" Gavin laughed and said, "Oh, a 540. It's nothing much, just around 700,000 or 800,000, that's all." "Damn, a 540? That's the most expensive imported model in the 5 Series. Man, I'm trying to buy a 3 Series for $300,000 and I can't even scrape together the down payment. I'm not even in the same league. Gavin, your car must have some serious power, right? Gavin smiled and said, Yeah, it's all right. The acceleration is pretty strong. You generally don't run into anyone on the street who can keep up. That's awesome! If only I could have this car. My girlfriend keeps nagging me that I can't afford a car, and it's so annoying. Just then, someone with sharp eyes saw another car from the same brand arriving and said in surprise, Oh, is that one of our classmates too? Oh, hell no! Isn't that Charlie, the good-for-nothing freeloader? Looks like Claire's in the passenger seat. Damn! That freeloader is driving a luxury car too. It's gotta be Claire's car, right? Gavin also saw Charlie in the car and said with a sour look on his face, So it's that piece of trash. Damn, what a lucky break for him. Just then someone asked, Hey, what model is that he's driving? At that moment, Charlie pulled the car up and then backed into a parking spot. Gavin glanced at the 520 on the trunk emblem and suddenly smirked with contempt. A 520. The absolute base model of the 5 Series. He's just fronting, trying to look like he has money. Anyone can afford that piece of junk. The guy next to him quickly nodded and said, Gavin, you have the top-of-the-line 5 Series, and he has the cheapest one. Yours is way better, right? Gavin snorted coldly. I could buy 2 of his cars. You're the man, Gavin! Just then, Charlie turned off the car, and Claire and Elsa got out first. A few of the guys immediately straightened up and swarmed them. Well, look who's here! The 2 prettiest girls from our class, together! Claire and Elsa greeted everyone politely. Gavin looked at Claire, who was even more beautiful now, and felt a bitter surge of resentment. Damn it, why? In college, he'd chased after Claire like crazy, but she wouldn't give him the time of day. Now she was married to this live-in freeloader, a total loser who mooched off her family. God must be blind. Thinking about it just made him mad, and he sneered, Well, Charlie, looks like you've got it made living at Claire's house. Even got yourself a nice car. Did Claire buy it for you? You really found the shortcut in life. You're an inspiration to us all. Claire's expression soured when she heard that. Elsa, standing next to her, immediately jumped in. Gavin, you've got it all wrong. Claire didn't buy this car. Charlie bought it himself. Oh, Gavin curled his lip. Awesome. You're rolling in a 5 Series. Then he deliberately tried to get a rise out of Charlie. Hey, Charlie, the roads out here in the development zone are empty, and that main avenue is wide and straight. What do you say we race? See who's faster? Charlie frowned, feeling annoyed at Gavin's attitude. Why is this guy always trying to start something with me? We're not even friends. Besides, who is he trying to race? My car is a 760, the most expensive and fastest model they make. Racing him would be like bullying a kid. Gavin thought Charlie was scared and immediately sneered. What's the matter, Charlie? Still the same as you were in college. What are you afraid of? Worried about the cost of gasoline? It's not a big deal. I'll even fill up your tank for you. Elsa protested, clearly annoyed. Hey, Gavin, what's your problem? Your car is a 540 and Charlie's is a 520. There's a huge difference in power. You call that a fair race? Gavin just shrugged. A race is all about the driver's skill. A good car doesn't guarantee a win. It also comes down to technique and courage. I don't know if Charlie here has the guts to compete. If not, then just forget it. It's not like he's ever been one to step up. We all know that. A few guys next to him immediately chimed in. Yeah, just admit it if you're scared. No shame in it. Charlie didn't get angry. He just laughed and said, Gavin, a race is fine, but we can't just do it for bragging rights, can we? We should put something on the line, otherwise it's boring. Okay, Gavin had been worried Charlie wouldn't take the bait. When he heard Charlie suggest a bet himself, he was thrilled, thinking Charlie was walking right into his trap. He blurted out, "Fine, how about this? Whoever loses gets on their knees and admits defeat to the winner. What do you think?" Charlie shook his head. "We're all adults here. Let's not be so childish." At that moment, Darren walked out in a suit, holding a big box of fireworks. When he saw Charlie, he rushed over excitedly. "Hey, Charlie, you made it!" Charlie nodded and smiled back. "Congrats on the grand opening, Darren." Darren smiled and said, "Thanks, man." Gavin said coldly, "Charlie, don't change the subject. Tell me, what do you think the bet should be?" Darren asked curiously, "What's going on? What are you guys doing?" Charlie just smiled slightly, looked at the big box of fireworks in Darren's arms, and asked him, "Darren, how big of a show do those fireworks put on?" "It's a huge display," Darren smiled. "These weren't cheap. It'll leave the whole ground covered in red. Cost me over $600. Charlie nodded and then turned to Gavin. "All right, let's race. And whoever loses has to set this box of fireworks off inside their car. What do you think?" When Gavin heard this, he could barely contain his excitement. His car was a 540, and Charlie's was a 520. There was no way Charlie could win, even if he pushed his car to the limit. And yet, here he was, making a bet this huge. Setting off a large fireworks display inside the car would absolutely destroy it. The interior, the seats, the dashboard, it would all be a complete wreck. Since Charlie was practically asking for it, this was the perfect chance to completely humiliate him. So, Gavin nodded without a moment's hesitation and shouted, "Everyone's a witness. Charlie and I are going to see whose car is fastest. If I lose, I'll set these fireworks off in my own car and light them." Then he added, "And if anyone backs out and goes back on their word, their whole family will have to live with the shame." A few of the guys next to him immediately started hyping it up. The students upstairs heard the commotion and all rushed down. A crowd of 20 or 30 people gathered around the entrance, eager to see the show. Everyone thought Charlie was an idiot. A 520 daring to challenge a 540? This was all a straight shot. On a road like this, speed had very little to do with skill, and everything to do with the car's performance. A 520, even if a pro was behind the wheel, couldn't possibly beat a 540. It looked like Charlie's brand new 520 was about to be declared a total loss. Claire kept trying to talk Charlie out of it. "Charlie, don't let him get to you. He's doing this on purpose. Don't race him." Charlie just smiled. "Don't worry, honey. I'm not going to lose." Gavin laughed loudly. "Oh, Charlie, I'll give you one thing. You've got guts. In that case, let's cut the crap and just race." "Okay," Charlie nodded and asked him, "So what are the rules?" Gavin pointed to the intersection at the end of the road. "We start at the same time. We race to that intersection, turn around, and the first one back here wins. What do you say?" Charlie smiled and said, "No problem." "All right," Gavin said, buzzing with excitement. "Everyone's a witness. Let's start the race right now." With that, he hopped into his 540 and pulled out onto the road. Ignoring Claire's protests, Charlie drove his car up next to Gavin's, their front bumpers perfectly aligned. Just then, one of the guys grinned. "Ha ha ha, I'll do the countdown for you." "Okay," Gavin smirked. "Start whenever you're ready." Charlie nodded and switched his 760 into sport mode. The 760 has a 6.6-liter engine with 585 horsepower. Gavin's 540, on the other hand, has a 3-liter engine with 340 horsepower. The 760's engine was more than twice the size, with an extra 245 horsepower. It was a night and day difference. But Gavin had no idea that Charlie's 520 was actually a top-of-the-line 760. He thought he had this in the bag. The student doing the countdown yelled excitedly, "Get ready! 3, 2, 1, go! The second he said go, Gavin slammed his foot on the gas. He knew Charlie was going to lose, but he wanted to make it as humiliating as possible. So he tried to get an even bigger lead. But what he didn't expect was the black shadow that shot past him on his right, instantly leaving him in the dust. It was Charlie's 520. Gavin couldn't believe his eyes. Oh, crap! How is that possible? No way! Charlie's 520 only has 184 horsepower, while his 540 has 340, nearly double. How could he pass him so easily? The students watching were all stunned. No one thought that Charlie, the guy everyone was sure would lose, would shoot off like an arrow from a bow, instantly blowing past Gavin and leaving him in the dust. Before Gavin was even halfway there, Charlie had already turned around at the end of the road. By the time Gavin was making his turn, Charlie was already back at the starting line. Charlie won, and he won by a landslide. When Gavin finally made it back, he saw Charlie and Claire celebrating his victory, and he felt like he was going to collapse. What just happened? What in the world was going on? Since when was a 520 twice as fast as a 540? Wait a minute. That jerk must have modified his car. Oh, shoot. He used a modified car to trick me? Darn it! He gritted his teeth, drove his car back to the crowd, and saw Charlie already high-fiving Claire. The other students were still in shock, unable to figure out how Charlie's 520 was so incredibly fast. Gavin slammed his car to a stop, jumped out, and roared, angry. Darn it, Charlie! You're driving a modified car, aren't you? That's not a fair race. A modified car has way more power than mine. How is that a fair comparison? Charlie just smirked. Hey, Gavin, weren't you the one saying it's all about the engine, not about skill or guts? Now that you've lost, are you going to back out? I'm not. Gavin's face showed a flash of panic, but he tried to sound tough. You cheated! Elsa chimed in with disgust. Gavin, you're all talk. It's really pathetic. Don't forget the promise you just made. If anyone backs out of the bet, their whole family will have to live with the shame. Yeah! A lot of the students who had been waiting to see Charlie get humiliated were now annoyed with Gavin. They could see he was a sore loser. He was a grown man, and he started this whole thing himself, but now he wouldn't even own up to it. Someone else spoke up. Gavin, you're being a real jerk. Everyone saw it. You were the one who challenged Charlie. You're the one who said it was all about the engine. You said if you lost, your whole family would have to live with it. Are you really going to go back on your word now, just to avoid honoring the bet? Yeah, a girl said. Gavin, we all thought you were a man of your word, but I guess we didn't expect you to flake out like this. Others chimed in. Now I see what Gavin is really like. He's a total hypocrite. If Charlie had lost, he definitely wouldn't have let him off the hook. Now that he lost, he's being a sore loser. It's pathetic. Gavin's face was a mix of pale and red. To be honest, he had just bought the car less than a month ago and had spent over $700,000 on it. All in. If he really threw a case of fireworks inside and lit them, the car would be completely wrecked. This was his car. He usually wouldn't even let a tiny scratch or speck of dust touch it. So why would he ever be willing to throw fireworks inside? However, with so many of his classmates watching, and the crowd now clearly against him, he knew that if he kept being shameless, they would never hang out with him again. They would tell everyone that he lost a bet and would rather let his whole family live with the shame than honor it. Thinking of this, his heart wavered. If he didn't like the fireworks, his reputation would be ruined. Just then, Charlie suddenly spoke up. Gavin, we're all classmates here. It's not that serious. Your car is pretty expensive. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Gavin instantly breathed a sigh of relief. but the students around them immediately started whispering. Wow, Charlie is being the bigger person. It's actually embarrassing to watch Gavin right now. Yeah, Charlie realized he can't afford to lose, so he's giving him a way out. Gavin's ego couldn't take it, and he yelled, "Who the hell said I can't afford to lose? Where are the fireworks? Give them to me. If I can make a bet, I can certainly afford to lose it." At that moment, a small smile played on Charlie's lips. Gavin had completely lost it. He couldn't stand being shown up by a nobody like Charlie in front of all his classmates, so he snapped, grabbed the fireworks from Darren, and threw them right into his car. After that, he picked up a lighter, grabbed the fuse, and said coldly, "Watch this. A real man doesn't back down from a bet, and I don't need any pity from Charlie." With that, he immediately flicked the lighter. The fireworks lit up instantly, crackling and exploding inside the car. At first you could see the flashes of light, but soon the car was filled with thick white smoke. The sound of the constantly exploding fireworks was breaking Gavin's heart, but the classmates watching were cheering with excitement. Many of them had already pulled out their phones to record videos, planning to post the whole thing on the internet later, so everyone could see this crazy stunt. The case of fireworks exploded, and soon the seats of the 540 were blown apart. The seats were filled with foam, which is super flammable. The fireworks quickly sparked a real fire. No one expected the fireworks to actually ignite the car. It was filled with so much white smoke that no one could even see the flames at first. However, when the fireworks were almost done and the smoke began to clear, the flames inside suddenly roared to life, and the whole interior was engulfed in fire. The classmates at the scene all screamed, and Gavin yelled in shock, "Oh my God, put it out! Put out the fire!" He thought the fireworks would just mess up the seats and the interior, costing him maybe tens of thousands or even $100,000 to fix. He never, ever expected the fireworks would actually set the whole car on fire. He screamed for a fire extinguisher, but no one could help him put out the flames empty-handed. He frantically dialed 911 and then watched helplessly as the fire in his car grew bigger and bigger until it was completely swallowed by the flames. By the time the fire truck arrived, all that was left was the burned-out frame of the 540. Looking at the frame, you couldn't even tell it had once been a luxury car. Gavin slumped to the ground, watching in agony as his beloved turned to ash. If he had known this would happen, he would have done anything to avoid provoking Charlie and challenging him to that race. He hadn't just lost face, his car was totally wrecked. Darren kept a straight face, but inside he thought it was hilarious and secretly gave Charlie a thumbs up. Then he said to Gavin, "Gavin, don't feel too bad. We should probably head inside for dinner." Gavin wanted to make up an excuse and just leave, but then he thought about it. That would be letting Charlie, that jerk, off way too easily. After all, his car was ruined because of Charlie. He had to get his payback somehow. So he got to his feet, pretending to be calm, and said, "What's there to be sad about? I was just having a little fun with a bet." A few of his friends came over to back him up. "Yeah, Gavin's loaded. What's one car?" "Exactly. For a guy like him, it's just a car." Everyone knew Gavin was just trying to save face, so they dropped the subject and followed Darren inside for the opening party. Inside the restaurant, a bunch of tables were set up in the main dining area. On a small stage at the front, banners were hanging up celebrating the class reunion and the restaurant's grand opening. A lot of classmates were bringing up gifts. Charlie took the ancient painting he'd bought, walked up to Darren, and said, "Congratulations, Darren. This is a little opening gift from me and Claire." Claire smiled too. "Darren, congratulations. We wish you all the best and a ton of success." "Thank you," Darren said quickly. He then leaned into Charlie's ear and whispered with a smirk, "You and your wife seem a lot closer than what everyone says. So, when are you guys having a baby?" Claire couldn't help but blush when she heard them whispering. Charlie just smiled and said, "Hey, don't spread rumors. When the time comes, I'll let you know. You won't get out of buying a gift, you know." "That's true," Darren nodded eagerly. "I'll definitely give your kid a large cash gift when the time comes." Just then, a woman with heavy makeup and a plain face walked over to Darren. "Darren, who are these two?" "This is one of my best friends from college, Charlie. And this is our old prom queen, Claire, who's now Charlie's wife." After introducing them, Darren introduced the woman beside him. "And this is my fiancé, Aria Hughes." "He's the one who's a freeloader?" Aria blurted out, but she quickly realized her mistake and forced a smile. "Oh, Darren's told me so much about you. You two make a beautiful couple." Charlie pretended he didn't hear her and handed the ancient painting to Aria. "This is just a little something from us." Aria smiled. "Oh, you shouldn't have. Just having you here is more than enough." As she spoke, she quickly took the gift box. Charlie said, "You two must be busy. We'll go find a place to sit." "Okay," Darren said apologetically. "Sorry, Charlie. There are so many people here I have to say hello to." As soon as Charlie and Claire walked away, Aria tore open the gift box and found a manuscript inside. She frowned and said, "What did your friend give you?" Darren said, "Can't you see it? It's a painting." Aria sneered. She unrolled the manuscript to look at it. "What is this piece of junk? It's so old and gross. I bet it's worth maybe $100 or $200. Darren said sternly, "What does it matter how much it costs? It's a gift from a friend. It's the thought that counts." Aria shot back. "Oh, please. Let me tell you, you need to keep friends like that at a distance. A gift this cheap doesn't even cover the cost of their dinner." Darren's face darkened. "Aria, do you have to be such a snob?" Aria flew into a rage. "How dare you talk to me like that, Darren? You think I'm a snob? If I were a real snob, do you think I'd be with a loser like you? Don't forget, my dad put up most of the money for this restaurant." Darren looked awkward, suddenly speechless. Just then, Gavin walked up to them. He seemed to have recovered from the whole car-burning fiasco and was back to his usual arrogant self. He went straight to them, handed Darren a thick envelope, and said casually, "Darren, congrats on the opening. I didn't know what to get you, so I just put together a large cash gift." Aria snatched it up, thanking him. She could feel a thick wad of cash inside. It had to be $10,000, and her tone immediately changed. "Oh, thank you so much." Gavin waved a hand and asked her, "I saw Charlie give you a gift earlier. What was it?" Aria snorted. "Some painting he probably dug out of a thrift store. It's probably worth $100, maybe $200, if that." Gavin sneered. "What do you expect? A loser's always a loser." Charlie sat down with Claire and Elsa. A moment later, Gavin followed and slid into the seat right beside Elsa. As soon as he sat down, he smiled and asked Elsa, "Elsa, I heard you came to Oris Hill to work for the Grand Group?" Elsa nodded. "Yeah, I just started." Gavin beamed. "What a coincidence. My dad is a deputy general manager of a department at the Grand Group. I'll have him look out for you." When he said that, several people at the table gasped. "Wow, Gavin, your dad is a deputy general manager at the Grand Group?" "Yep," Gavin nodded smugly. "He was promoted last year." Someone immediately started sucking up. "The annual salary for a deputy general manager has to be a few million, right? That's incredible. No wonder your family is so rich." Gavin just smiled. "A few million is just his base salary. My dad has a lot of pull and some other income streams." Right now, the Grand Group is working on a new hotel project. After this project is done, my dad stands to make at least 10 to 20 million. A guy sitting across from him leaned forward eagerly. Hey, Gavin, I want to work for the Grand Group too. I've sent in my resume a bunch of times, but haven't heard anything. Do you think you could talk to your uncle and maybe recommend me internally? Gavin nodded, happy to show off his connections. Sure, no problem. Just send me your resume later. I'll put in a good word for you. Charlie couldn't help but frown. He had no idea Gavin's father was an executive at the Grand Group. This was getting interesting. He decided he would text Doris later and have her fire Gavin's father. So he deliberately asked, Gavin, if your father is so high up in the Grand Group, why didn't he get you a job there? Gavin sneered with disdain. What do you know? It wouldn't make sense for me to join the Grand Group. Everyone would know I'm his son. I'd constantly have people watching my every move. Gavin continued proudly. So I'm not even thinking about the Grand Group. I've already started my own building materials company. I'll just use my dad's connections to get contracts directly from them. I see, someone exclaimed. You're going to make a fortune. Gavin snorted. It's all right. I should make a good amount of money within a year. With that, he shot a deliberate look at Charlie and asked, So Charlie, what do you do now? Are you just washing clothes and cooking since you got married? Laughter erupted from everyone at the table. Charlie answered calmly. Besides washing clothes and cooking, I also have to drive my wife to work and give her back rubs. It's a busy life. Gavin looked like he was about to explode. He couldn't believe Charlie's audacity. The guy was so shameless, it was unbelievable. Clenching his jaw, he gritted his teeth. Charlie, I didn't realize you were so content to just live off your wife. Why shouldn't I be? Charlie said, completely unfazed. I didn't steal it, and I didn't force my way into it. Why wouldn't I be comfortable with the life I have? The classmates sitting around them were stunned. They had seen shameless people before, but this was on another level entirely. The crazy part was they were also envious. After all, Claire was absolutely beautiful. To be a kept man for a woman who was basically a goddess? That was something most of them could only dream of. It was a bitter mix of jealousy, envy, and pure hate. If they had a chance to be with a beauty like Claire, who would care if you were a stay-at-home husband? That was winning at life. Gavin was so furious that he was speechless. At that moment, Arya stepped onto the small stage. With a bright smile, she addressed the crowd. Thank you all for the wonderful gifts today. Darren and I are both so moved. To show our gratitude, we decided to announce the details of each gift. Thank you all again. Since it was an opening ceremony, the public acknowledgement of gifts was a natural part of the event. Originally, Darren didn't want to do this, but he didn't have much say in the matter, so he just let Arya take charge. But many of their old classmates weren't surprised. People love to compare and show off. This way, everyone could see who gave what and judge how well their classmates were doing after graduation. Soon after, Arya began to read from the list. Thank you, Taylor Emerson, for the $1,000 cash gift card. Thank you, Henry Bowman, for the pair of gold bars. Thank you, Alex Novak, for the Jade Griffin statue. Thank you, Gavin, for the $10,000 cash gift card. The first few gifts, whether cash or items, were all worth around $1,000. But when she got to Gavin, who had given $10,000, the students were floored. A $10,000 gift for a restaurant opening? That was huge. Many people looked at Gavin with awe, praising his generosity. Gavin wore a smug look on his face. It was clear he had easily one-upped everyone. At this moment, Arya continued, And thank you to Charlie and Claire for the old painting. As soon as she said that, the whole room burst out laughing. An old painting? Was it worth even $100? Were they really that cheap? The grand opening of Darren's restaurant was a big deal. The meal alone costs hundreds of dollars per person. And they came to eat and just gave an old painting? Weren't they afraid of being laughed at? Gavin also sneered. Charlie, you can afford a nice car and even get it customized. But for the opening, you only bring a tattered old thing like that? Charlie just smiled faintly. You don't know anything about it. So what makes you say it's tattered? Gavin scoffed. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You just bought some worthless fake antique to pass it off as something valuable, so no one can figure out how much it's really worth. Then he added aggressively, Be honest. How much did your old painting actually cost? $100? 80? Charlie smiled slightly. This painting is worth more than everything everyone here gave today combined. Gavin was the first to laugh. You've got some nerve. I gave a $10,000 cash gift card, and there are more than 20 other classmates who each gave around $1,000. That's at least another $20,000. You're trying to tell us your painting is worth more than $30,000? Charlie smiled. You're underestimating it. Now the whole class was laughing. Everyone thought Charlie was just full of it. What kind of gift was this? How dare he show up and provoke them like this? An old painting worth tens of thousands? Who was he trying to fool? At this point, Aria Hughes, who was still on the stage, looked down with disdain and asked curiously, Mr. Charlie, I'm curious. Who is the artist of this ancient painting? Is it really worth tens of thousands? Charlie answered casually. A painter from the early American era. He's not very famous. Aria laughed. Oh, what a coincidence. My dad is an antiques expert, and he's very well respected. His name is Orion Hughes. He's an expert in the field. You've probably heard of him, right? Elsa's eyes went wide. Orion Hughes? The historical artifact expert Orion Hughes? I remember him. He was on the national news channel. Is he really your father? Aria smiled. Yes, that's my father. He's actually upstairs right now. How about I ask him to come down and take a look at the ancient painting our classmate Charlie brought? Gavin stood up and said loudly, Then do it, Aria. Have your dad come down and help us appraise it. If Charlie's painting is really worth more than all the other gifts combined, then I, Gavin, will eat this entire table right here on the spot. When they heard Aria's father was an antiques expert, all the classmates looked at Charlie with a mix of pity and scorn. They figured Charlie was just incredibly unlucky. He was trying to act all high and mighty, but running into a real expert? Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. If Aria's father Orion came down, wouldn't Charlie be totally humiliated? Claire was getting embarrassed too. She whispered to Charlie, Charlie, everyone is watching. Don't be so stubborn or you're going to look like a fool. Before they came, Charlie had mentioned buying a painting, but he'd said it wasn't worth much. Now he was claiming it was worth tens of thousands. Claire felt her stomach drop. She figured Charlie was just saying it to save face. But Charlie didn't seem to care at all. Since you don't believe me, he said, let a professional take a look. Then he added, By the way, everyone, don't forget that our classmate Gavin here is a man of his word. He just made another bet. This time, he's offered to eat the table. Gavin, still fuming about the car race, gritted his teeth. Charlie, you are so arrogant. You embarrassed me with that racing thing, and I was willing to accept the loss. I'm willing to bet again. If that painting you gave is really worth tens of thousands, I'll eat this table right here. If it's not, will you eat it? Charlie nodded. Okay, if it's not worth it, I'll eat it. Although it wasn't a famous painting, it was a genuine work by the ancient painter Harvey Pike. The antique shop he bought it from was a national chain that guaranteed authenticity and had a strict policy against fakes. The painting was definitely real. Claire wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Charlie had already agreed. She could only sigh to herself in frustration. Elsa was also a little surprised. Why was Charlie so confident? The more she thought about it, the more she realized he was a very mysterious person. That day at the mansion, the famous Orville Hudson had bowed and scraped to him. She still hadn't figured out why, but she was sure of one thing. Charlie definitely had a secret. Gavin felt like he finally had a chance to get his reputation back. He blurted out, "Okay, everyone here is a witness. Let's have Arya invite her father down to help us identify it." Arya immediately pulled out her phone and dialed, right in front of everyone. "Dad, can you come down for a minute? One of Darren's classmates has a painting, and I want you to appraise it." A minute later, an older gentleman slowly walked down the stairs from the second floor. This was Orion Hughes, a famous antiques expert in Orris Hill. Today was the grand opening of his daughter and future son-in-law's restaurant. He had also invited an old friend to join him in a private room upstairs. He heard that there were ancient paintings that needed to be appraised. As an expert, his interest was immediately piqued, so he hurried down to have a look. Orion stepped forward and walked onto the stage. Arya quickly handed him the gift box containing the painting. "Dad, can you help us identify this? Someone is claiming it's worth tens of thousands." As she said this, she shot Charlie a contemptuous look. Who would believe that a freeloader like him could get his hands on an ancient painting worth tens of thousands? She didn't even have to guess. The painting had to be a fake. The others clearly felt the same way. No one believed Charlie could actually afford to give classical paintings worth tens of thousands. Orion took the gift box, and with everyone's eyes on him, carefully took out the manuscript and unrolled it. The old painting was a bit yellowed and looked pretty unremarkable. Many of the more judgmental classmates immediately started chiming in. "Oh, that doesn't look like anything special." "Yeah, I'd say it's worth $50, tops." "I bet the box is worth more than the painting. The box alone is probably worth $70 or $80. Orion studied the painting carefully. After examining it for a few minutes, he smiled and asked, "Is this painting a gift from one of the classmates?" "Yes," Arya said. "He's one of his best friends from college." As she said this, Arya was thinking that since Charlie and Darren were such good friends, he still had the nerve to give a gift only worth a few $100s. She couldn't wait for her father to expose him in front of everyone. However, no one saw this coming. Orion sighed and said, "That must be a very good friend." Not many people would be willing to give something so valuable. When everyone heard this, they were stunned. Valuable? Was this piece of junk actually expensive? Gavin scoffed to himself. "Valuable, my ass. I could go to the vintage market, buy a forgery, and spill some coffee on it to make it look old. It would look more real than this painting." At that moment, Orion said earnestly, "This is a genuine work by the ancient-era painter Harvey Pike." Although Harvey Pike isn't an extremely famous painter, he was still one of the outstanding artists of his time. He's considered one of the great maverick artists. After a pause, Orion added, "I estimate the market price for this painting is around $200,000. More than $200,000? Arya was completely floored. She thought this thing wasn't even worth $100, and now she was hearing it was worth over $200,000. Darren was speechless. He finally blurted out, "Oh, Charlie, how could you give me something so expensive? This is way too much. Charlie replied calmly, Darren, it's the thought that counts. Don't worry about the price. Darren was deeply touched. He never expected his good friend from college to be so incredibly generous. Gavin just stood there looking dazed. What was going on? This piece of junk was worth over $200,000? Over $200,000! Damn it, was this some kind of prank? The other students were in shock too. This time, no one dared to look down on Charlie again. After all, this was a guy who casually gave away paintings worth more than $200,000 as gifts. Everyone was now envious of Darren. Talk about a score! To get such an expensive gift for his grand opening, he'd really hit the jackpot. At that moment, Aria was also in shock, and her opinion of Charlie changed completely. She knew her father was an expert. If he said the painting was worth over $200,000, then it was definitely worth that much. Oh my God! Darren's friend actually gave such an expensive gift. That was an incredible gesture. Thinking of this, she looked at Charlie with stars in her eyes. Claire asked, puzzled, Charlie, how much did you spend on this painting? Charlie smiled slightly and said in a low voice, Actually, it didn't cost much. The guy who sold it to me was an acquaintance. He got it for a steal himself, so he sold it to me for a low price. Claire couldn't help but say, a $200,000 painting sold to you for just a few thousand? Is something that good even possible? Charlie said casually, Some people don't think money is everything, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have given this painting to Darren. Claire nodded lightly. Charlie was right. If money were the most important thing, no one would give away something so expensive. It seemed that even though her husband wasn't the most successful guy, he definitely had more courage than most people. At that moment, Charlie stood up. He looked at Gavin, who was now flustered, and asked with a smile, Mr. Gavin, how would you like to eat this table? Do you want to just start chewing, or should I have it chopped up into smaller pieces for you with a knife? Gavin wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Damn it! What was going on? Did he forget to read the horoscope this morning or something? Why did Charlie keep owning him, one thing after another? He never would have believed it, but the painting was actually real, and it was worth more than $200,000. But he'd already made that stupid bet. What was he supposed to do now? Was he really supposed to eat the table? Impossible! If his car got wrecked, he could just buy a new one. But eating a table? How could anyone even do that? He'd actually die if he tried. The other classmates started taunting him too. Hey, Gavin, you're the one who said you'd eat the table. You're not backing out now, are you? Yeah, we're all waiting for the show. Someone slapped the table, and a voice called out, Come on, Gavin, let's see it. Gavin's face turned ugly. He blurted out, Come on, guys. You don't have to be so harsh, do you? Harsh? Charlie said with a smile. You started this yourself. Everyone's just encouraging you to keep your promise. Why are you getting all defensive? Gavin knew he couldn't get out of this one, so he had to swallow his pride. He said in a strained voice, Look, I was being impulsive just now. I was wrong. I apologize to Charlie and to everyone. I hope you can all forgive me. Seeing him back down so suddenly, everyone was shocked. Was this the same Gavin? Since when does he admit he's wrong? But Gavin had no other choice. What else could he do? Sure enough, as soon as he apologized, one of the classmates said, Hey, It takes a lot for Gavin to admit he's wrong and say sorry. Besides, it's not like we can actually force him to eat a table. Let's just drop it. Yeah, forget it. You can't eat a table. Nobody's ever eaten a table. Let's just get this party started. Charlie also knew it was impossible for Gavin to eat the table. But now that he'd admitted it, Charlie's goal was achieved. When you act all tough, you have to be ready for the consequences. But this was just a small taste of what was coming. It was only the beginning. Much worse things were waiting for Gavin down the road. So he said, since Gavin admitted he was wrong and apologized, let's forget about the table. Today is about the grand opening of the Moonlight Bistro, so let's not steal his thunder. Gavin breathed a sigh of relief. But in his heart, he was already fantasizing about killing Charlie to get his revenge. Charlie wasn't planning on letting him off the hook either. He sent a text message to Doris Young. Which one of our deputy managers has the last name Sawyer and has a son named Gavin? Check for me. Doris Young quickly replied, We have a vice president named Declan Sawyer, and his son's name is Gavin. What's going on, Mr. Chairman? What are your orders? Charlie replied, Fire him, and do it now. Okay, sir. Gavin had no idea that his father had just been fired from the Grand Group and was going through the termination process as they spoke. Having finally escaped his predicament, he breathed a sigh of relief. But he was already secretly plotting to find an opportunity to get revenge on Charlie. More importantly, he needed to find a way to get his dignity back in front of his classmates. Otherwise, after getting owned by Charlie twice in a row, how could he ever act tough in front of them again? Just as he was trying to figure out how to get his status back, a loud noise came from the entrance. Everyone turned to look. They saw a group of rough-looking young guys storming in. They all had tattoos and were carrying baseball bats, lead pipes, and stuff like that. They looked like bad news from the moment you saw them. Seeing this crew barge in, everyone's expressions changed, especially Darren's and Arya's, whose eyes were filled with fear. The leader, a guy with a huge scar on his face, scanned the room. He pointed at Darren and grinned. Hey, boss. Throwing such a big party and you don't give us a heads up? You looking down on us or something? Arya's face went pale. She forced a smile and asked, What can we do for you guys? Before they opened, Arya had heard that some people collected protection money in this area. The last owner of this restaurant was supposedly run out of business by these same gangsters and had no choice but to sell the place. But Arya figured, in this day and age, would thugs really be brazen enough to demand money in broad daylight? That's why she bought the place for a low price, ready to run it herself. She never expected that on opening day, the local muscle would show up at her door. Scarface grinned. When you do business around here, you gotta pay respect to our boss. We're not asking for much. Just give us 20% of your restaurant. In return, if any trouble comes your way, we'll take care of it. Then, Scarface's voice turned cold. If you don't, then don't blame us for getting rough. You'll be closing up shop for good today. Hearing the demand, both Darren and Arya gasped. 20% of the shares, just like that. This is daylight robbery. You've got 1 minute to think it over. Suddenly, Gavin saw his chance to be the hero, so he stepped forward immediately and said, Who do you guys work for? Scarface shot back with a smirk. And who are you? Do I need to report to you? Gavin scoffed and said, Let me tell you something. My father has connections all over Oris Hill, with the cops and the crooks. I'll make one call to the head of the development zone right now. Scarface looked at him, a little intimidated. He said hesitantly, You really know the leaders of the development zone? Of course, Gavin said coldly. Get out if you know what's good for you. Scarface frowned. All right. If you can actually get someone important on the phone, I won't come to this place again. But if you can't, then don't blame me for getting rough with you. Arya said nervously, Gavin, please, make the call. Gavin smiled faintly and said, Don't worry. I'll call the head of the development zone right now. The Grand Group also had projects in the development zone, and Gavin's father was in charge of them. The head of the zone had a lot of contact with his father, and he knew Gavin as well. Gavin dialed the number directly, putting it on speaker and deliberately raising his voice. Mayor Simons, why are there a bunch of gangsters in the development zone collecting protection fees? They've all shown up at my classmate's business. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then a voice said, Gavin? What's going on? Gavin said, A friend of mine opened a restaurant and is getting hassled by guys demanding protection money. I was hoping you could do something about it, Mayor Simons. The person on the other end paused for a moment, then said with a hint of embarrassment, I'm sorry, Gavin. That's not really something I handle. I'm in a meeting right now, so I'll have to hang up. Without waiting for Gavin to speak, he hung up the phone. Gavin was dumbfounded. What happened? Wasn't Mayor Simons always sucking up to his father, hoping to get more investment from the Grand Group? Why did he just brush him off like that? What Gavin didn't know was that the news of his father being fired from the Grand Group had already spread throughout the entire leadership of Oris Hill. Gavin didn't know what was going on, and he was getting really annoyed. With so many of his classmates watching, he had to grit his teeth and try another contact. Gavin made another call, this time to the head of the local police precinct. This guy also had a good relationship with his dad. As soon as the phone connected, Gavin immediately said, Director Monroe, it's me, Gavin. I've got a situation here in the development zone. With that, Gavin explained what was happening again. The person on the other end said awkwardly, Gavin, those guys are with Blake, and Blake works for Orville Hudson. You'd be better off staying out of this. Gavin asked, So you're not going to do anything? The other man said, You should know Orville Hudson's reputation. Gavin was getting a little frantic. Then can't you at least pull some strings and talk to them for me? The other man chuckled. I really can't help you there. Sorry. Gavin got angry and said, Director Monroe, I seem to remember you wanting the Grand Group to donate a bunch of new police cars to your precinct. Don't you want them anymore? The man on the other end didn't even bother arguing. He just said coldly, Gavin, your dad has been fired from the Grand Group. Didn't you know? Fired? When did that happen? Gavin blurted out. Half an hour ago, the man said. Then he added, You should probably figure out what's going on before you start throwing your weight around. After that, he hung up the phone. Scarface saw he was stunned and said with a sneer, What's the matter? Can't find anyone to help you? Gavin was about to say something, but before he could, Scarface slapped him hard across the face. Gavin staggered backward, crashing into a table and chairs. The whole room gasped. Everyone's face went pale, but no one dared to step in and stop Scarface. You dare hit me? Gavin clutched his face, pure anger showing on his pale features. What's wrong with hitting you? Scarface smiled, then kicked Gavin in the stomach, sending him to the ground. He followed it up with a vicious beatdown. Gavin screamed as they beat him, but at this moment, no one could help him. After a little while, Gavin's face was beaten into a swollen mess covered in blood. It looked terrible. Terrified of the beating, Gavin started crying and begging. Big brother, I was wrong. Please stop hitting me. Wrong? Scarface snorted coldly. You think that's all it takes? You tried to act tough with me. If I don't put you in your place, how am I supposed to keep my reputation? He then motioned to his guys. "Get him! Hit him hard!" The whole crew rushed forward, punching and kicking Gavin. One of them even started smashing him with a baseball bat. The scene was brutal. Seeing that Gavin was beaten half to death, Scarface walked over to Darren and threatened coldly. "Your friend tried to act tough with me. The original 20% is now 40%. If you don't agree, his fate is what awaits you too." Darren was terrified, but if he gave up 40% of his shares, he would just be working for this gang. He gathered his courage and said, "If you want 40%, then you might as well just kill me." Scarface frowned and said coldly, "Okay, then I'll be happy to grant your wish." After saying that, he pulled a gleaming, sharp knife from his pocket. Everyone was frightened, and the female classmates started to scream. Charlie saw that Scarface was about to go after Darren, and he immediately blurted out, "Put the knife down!" Scarface turned his head and cursed, "Who the hell thinks they can tell me what to do?" When he turned his head and saw Charlie, his eyes were confused at first, then filled with pure panic. He dropped to his knees with a thud. Before anyone could react, Scarface had already dropped the sharp knife. He started bowing repeatedly, pleading, "Mr. Charlie, sorry, I didn't know you were here. I didn't see you." Charlie was surprised for a moment. He looked at Scarface and said, "Do you know me?" Scarface nodded frantically. "Mr. Charlie, I work for Boss Blake." "I've seen you at the mansion." It suddenly clicked for Charlie. So that was it. This guy worked for Blake, who was one of Orville's men. Blake was the one who had dealt with Gerald and Harold at the Classic Mansion that day. No wonder this guy was so terrified of him. Even Orville himself was scared of Charlie, let alone one of his guy's subordinates. The classmates were shocked. Arya was also in a daze, as if she were dreaming. No one understood why a fierce gangster like Scarface, a guy who had just slapped Gavin, would kneel down for Charlie. And why did he look so afraid of Charlie? Claire was also stunned and asked Charlie, "What's going on? Do you know him?" Charlie was afraid she would misunderstand and think he was involved with gangsters, so he quickly said, "I don't know him." When Scarface heard that, he quickly added, "I don't know Mr. Charlie, and Mr. Charlie doesn't know me. I've just heard his name and have a lot of respect for him." That worthless son-in-law. This guy was respecting Charlie. No one could accept this reality. It was completely surreal. Scarface quickly said to Darren, "You're Mr. Charlie's friend. From now on, your restaurant is under my protection, and I won't charge you any protection fee. If anything happens, I'll help you take care of it." When they heard this, everyone was stunned. Arya was so overjoyed she could have cried. The complete turnaround was just too much. Because of Charlie, they saved 40% of the shares. More importantly, Scarface was willing to protect the restaurant for free just to get on Charlie's good side. Now they could run their business without any worries. Charlie had saved the day. Darren was also grateful and said sincerely, "Charlie, I really can't thank you enough for this." Charlie smiled and said, "Don't mention it. You're giving me too much credit." Scarface looked at Gavin, who was unconscious on the floor, and said with fear and worry, "I'm sorry, Mr. Charlie. I beat up your friend." Charlie said casually, "It doesn't matter. He's not my friend, just an acquaintance. We're not close." Then he added, "You should take him to the hospital. Don't ruin the grand opening here." Scarface nodded immediately. "We'll take him to the hospital right away. Mr. Charlie, you carry on. We won't bother you anymore." After he said that, he quickly motioned to his guys. They picked up the unconscious Gavin and rushed off. Everyone's gaze on Charlie shifted from contempt to surprise, and from surprise to awe. No one knew why Charlie had so much influence. This live-in son-in-law seemed to have suddenly become a completely different person. At the party, many people came to get on Charlie's good side, including Arya Hughes, who had been the first to look down on him. Arya now looked at Charlie like he was a god. She kept thanking him and even offered him free meals for life at the restaurant. Charlie didn't pay it much mind. He had just done a favor for Darren, helping him out of a little trouble. But in the eyes of everyone else, what he had done that day seemed almost magical. Everyone wanted to know what had happened to this kept man of a son-in-law. Claire was also very curious about what happened today. First, there was Charlie's 520. How on earth was it twice as fast as Gavin's 540? Then there was the ancient painting that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Also, why did Charlie know people from the criminal underworld? And why did they give him so much respect? On the way back, Charlie explained everything. He told Claire that the 520 was a test drive car from a car dealership. To make potential buyers think the car was really powerful, they had modified it a little. Claire didn't know much about cars, so she naively believed him. As for the ancient painting, he had already explained that. However, the whole thing with Scarface was a bit trickier to explain. After all, the guy had called him Mr. Charlie with so much respect, and Charlie couldn't just brush that off. In the end, he could only say that Scarface was a relative of one of his friends. He explained that he'd seen him at a friend's party before, and the guy was just being respectful because of their mutual friend. Claire felt like something was off, but seeing how sure Charlie was, she knew it was useless to keep asking, so she dropped it. Elsa had been watching Charlie the whole time. She felt there was more to him than met the eye, so she decided to keep observing him to figure out what secrets he was hiding. Gavin, on the other hand, was in a miserable state. He was in a coma when they brought him to the hospital. His father had been fired from the M-Grand group after being found guilty of using his position for personal gain. The M-Grand group's legal department had sued him, and he was immediately arrested by the authorities. You could say Gavin's family was completely ruined. However, his family wasn't well known in Auris Hills, so nobody really cared about what happened to them. The people who really had everyone's attention were the God-tier tycoon and the mysterious VIP who had booked the entire Sky Garden. Everyone was dying to know who he was. Were the tycoon and the mysterious person one and the same? Soon, their wedding anniversary arrived. Because Charlie had told Claire a long time ago that he wanted to give her a surprise, he insisted that she put on a noble and elegant white evening dress before they left. Claire reluctantly agreed, mumbling to herself, "We're just going out to eat. Why do I have to get so dressed up? I know it's our anniversary, but does it really have to be this big of a deal?" Charlie smiled and said, "Today is our 3rd anniversary. It should be special. I've already booked a place, and I promise you'll love what I have planned for tonight." He had done a great job keeping everything a secret lately, and his wife hadn't suspected a thing. Claire smiled softly, feeling touched. For their first 2 anniversaries, they had just spent a quiet evening at home. Even though Charlie had no money back then, he always managed to find a small gift to make her happy. But this year, Charlie was being unusually mysterious, which made her wonder what her husband had up his sleeve. After a little while, they both got dressed, went outside, and hailed a cab, heading all the way to the Aurelius Grand. Charlie got out of the car and looked at Claire standing beside him, his eyes filled with a softness he couldn't put into words. "Claire, tonight, we're here to celebrate our 3rd wedding anniversary. What do you think?" Claire's expression suddenly turned strange. She wondered where on earth Charlie had booked a table for them tonight. She asked cautiously, "You're not tricking me, are you?" Charlie smiled. "Of course not. I made a reservation here a few days ago. If you don't believe me, we can go in and check." Claire shook her head. In their 3 years of marriage, Charlie had never lied to her, especially not on a day as important as this. "No, I believe you." Then she asked, "You didn't reserve a spot in the Sky Garden, did you? I thought some big shot booked the whole place tonight." Charlie quickly replied, "I booked a table right next to the Sky Garden. It's perfect because we can see inside. We might even get a peek at who it is that reserved it. What do you think?" Claire smiled and said, "I'm not as nosy as you are." With that, the two of them walked into the Aurelius Grand. Just as they were about to head upstairs, a woman's sharp voice called out, "Oh, Claire, what are you doing here?" Claire looked up and saw a young man and a woman walking toward them. The man was wearing a luxurious suit, and you could tell at a glance that he was some rich kid from a wealthy family. The woman was decked out in designer brands with flawless makeup, but her expression was full of arrogance, and her dress was a bit tacky. Claire recognized the woman. It was Bella Kaufman, her roommate from college. Even though Bella and Claire shared a dorm room, they weren't in the same classes, and despite living together, their relationship had always been just okay. This was mostly because Bella acted all high and mighty and was incredibly jealous. She had always felt that Claire didn't deserve to be called the campus beauty, and that she should have been the real prom queen. But in reality, she couldn't hold a candle to Claire in terms of looks, build, or personality. However, the woman did have one advantage. She was especially good at getting men to fall for her. Rumor had it she'd dated a string of rich guys back then. Apparently, they were the ones who paid for all her expenses during her 4 years of college. Claire frowned. But since they were old classmates, she had to be polite. As they got closer, she forced a smile and said, "Bella, long time no see. My husband and I are here for dinner. What about you?" Bella said with a look of surprise. "Wow, what a coincidence. My husband and I are here for dinner too." Then with fake curiosity, she asked, "By the way, what kind of table did you book? A regular one or one of the private dining rooms? Premium or luxury?" Claire had no idea what Charlie had planned, so she could only answer honestly, "I'm not sure. My husband made the reservation." Just then, Bella finally seemed to notice Charlie. She covered her mouth with her hand as she smiled and said, "Oh, so this is your husband, Charlie, right?" He was so plain back in school. The insult hidden behind her words was impossible to miss. Claire looked embarrassed. Bella quickly acted apologetic. "Oh, sorry. I can be so blunt sometimes. You don't mind, do you?" Charlie frowned slightly. This woman was definitely trouble. Bella completely ignored the look on Claire's face. She proudly pulled the man next to her forward and said, "Let me introduce you to my husband, Victor Case." Then she boasted, "He's the eldest son of the Case family here in Orris Hill and the heir to their multi-million-dollar fortune." Claire just nodded politely. Charlie's expression darkened. He had brought his wife out to celebrate their wedding anniversary, and the last thing he expected was to run into someone so obnoxious. Bella went on, "By the way, my husband is a platinum member here. He has a lot of pull. I bet Charlie only got you a regular table, right? Why don't I have Victor get you an upgrade to a luxury one? What do you say?" Claire was about to say no, but Charlie just laughed and said, "I booked a great spot, so we're good." He was about to host a grand wedding ceremony for Claire in the Sky Garden. What was so special about being a platinum member? The entire Aurelius Grand belonged to his family. Taking his wife to a simple luxury suite, available to any platinum member, would be like admitting defeat. At this time, Bella said with some dissatisfaction, "Claire, look at this husband of yours. You don't know how to push him to be better. How do you even handle him?" As she spoke, she grabbed Victor's arm, rested her head on his shoulder, and said with a smile, "Charlie's behavior just isn't right for a classy place like this. Maybe he should ask my husband for a few pointers on high society etiquette. After all, Victor studied in England." Victor glanced at Charlie with contempt and smirked. "Honey, don't give me such an impossible task. Mr. Charlie is so set in his ways. Trying to teach him high society etiquette? I'm afraid that would be a waste of time." Bella Kaufman nodded, sighed, and said to Claire, "Honestly, if I were you, I'd divorce him. You're just wasting your life being married to a poor guy like Charlie. You deserve so much better." Bella said it all so bluntly, without any concern for Claire's feelings. Claire couldn't take it anymore. She said coldly, "Bella, what's that supposed to mean?" "You have no right to talk about my husband like that." Bella covered her mouth and smiled. "Oh, don't act so high and mighty. You looked down on me all through college. You thought you were so special, the campus queen, just because your family had a little money. Now that you've married so poorly, you can't stand to hear me talk about it." Charlie was furious when he heard this. This Bella Kaufman, who was known for getting around in school, had used her looks to land a rich guy, and now she was acting like she was some kind of royalty. How dare she laugh at his wife? She was really asking for it. A surge of anger rose in Charlie's chest. He pulled out his phone and sent a text message to Isaac, the manager of the Aurelius Grand. "Send me everything you have on Bella Kaufman, Victor Case's wife. I need it in 3 minutes." When Bella saw Charlie just looking down at his phone without saying a word, she laughed even harder. "Look at your husband, Claire. I'm making fun of you, and he doesn't even have the guts to say anything back." Just then, Charlie's phone buzzed with a text from Isaac. "Sir, I've sent you the information on Bella Kaufman." Charlie read the long text message, then looked up at Bella and her husband, Victor. A small smile played on his lips as he asked, "I just got some interesting information. Would you two like to hear it?" Bella frowned and asked, "What information?" Charlie said loudly, "Bella Kaufman, female, age 26, graduate of Oris Hill University. During your freshman year, records show you were with no less than 100 different men, and you were intimate with 8 of them, including Logan Weaver, Grayson Archer, and Sam Brown." Bella was stunned. Her face went pale as she blurted out, "What are you talking about? Be careful, I'll sue you for slander." Victor frowned, clearly shocked by what he was hearing. Charlie continued, "Oh, and this is interesting. You were with 2 men at the same time on several occasions. One was named Noah Paxton, and the other was Levi Paxton. They seem to be brothers." Bella Kaufman, in horror, "You're lying! You're making it all up!" Charlie didn't stop. "Also, during your sophomore year, you were kept by the vice president of Sunrise Corporation for $30,000 a month. The relationship lasted for 3 years, with more than one health issue along the way. Your last visit to the Oris Hill Women's and Children's Hospital was particularly serious, and the doctor said it might affect your chances of having children in the future." He then turned to Victor and asked curiously, "Mr. Case, if I'm not mistaken, you don't have any children yet, do you?" Victor's expression turned ugly. He glared at Bella and demanded, "What is he talking about?" Sweat poured down Bella's face as she said in a panic, "Victor, don't listen to him. He's just making things up. I gave myself to you for the first time. You know that." Charlie just smiled. "Don't worry, there's more. It gets even better." Bella frantically grabbed Victor's arm, trying to pull him away. "Stop talking! Honey, let's go! We're going to be late for dinner!" Victor stood his ground, his eyes fixed on Charlie. "What else?" Charlie smiled. "Listen closely. After graduating from college, Bella had extensive plastic surgery at a cosmetic clinic. A month later, she got a job at Case Industries and deliberately got to know you, Victor Case, by scratching your car." After he finished, Charlie looked up at Victor. "Am I right?" Victor was speechless. He knew those last parts were true. That meant all the other things were probably true too. Bella was pale, her whole body shaking in panic. She begged Charlie, "Charlie, I'm begging you, please stop talking, please." Charlie sneered. "Now you're begging me? Sorry, it's too late." Then he added, "After knowing Victor Case for just 2 weeks, she used a business trip to San Francisco as an excuse to get restorative surgery at a Beverly Hills plastic surgery clinic. When she got back, she officially became Victor's girlfriend, and they were married within 6 months." Bella had slumped to the floor. She had no idea how Charlie knew all her secrets. He was airing all her dirty laundry right in front of her husband. Victor was so furious that he looked like steam was about to come out of his ears. He whirled around, glared at Bella, and screamed, "So you lied to me! That night wasn't your first time, was it?" Bella quickly denied it. "No, Victor, you were my first." Charlie smiled. "Don't worry. I can get the medical records from her surgery. You'll know the truth as soon as you look them up." Victor grabbed Bella by the collar. "Are you going to tell me the truth or not? Because after I check those records, I'm throwing you out. Your father, your mother, your brother, all of them are getting kicked out of my villa. And your brother can forget about his job at Case Industries. I'll leave your whole family on the street." Bella finally broke down, crying and kneeling on the floor, begging for mercy. "Honey, please don't be angry. I was wrong. Those were all mistakes I made when I was young and foolish. I changed my ways for you. I'm a different person now." Just then, Charlie added, "Don't believe her. Even after she married you, she had one last fling with the man who was taking care of her. And he has proof. If you want, I can get the video and send it to you." Victor's face was livid. In that moment, he finally understood what it felt like to be completely and utterly cheated on. Losing all control, he pushed Bella. "You lying piece of trash! You've been playing me this whole time! You made a fool out of me, and I'll kill you! I'll kill you for this!" Bella collapsed into tears. Victor kept yelling at her. "We're getting a divorce! We're done! And if you don't agree, I'll find someone to kill you, your parents, and your brother." Bella completely fell apart. She had done everything she could to marry into the Case family. She wanted to be a wealthy wife for the rest of her life. But now, that dream was shattered, and it was all because of Charlie. She hated him with every fiber of her being, but Charlie just smirked and said to Claire, "Let's leave these two to tear each other apart. Let's go." With that, he took Claire's hand and led her toward the elevator. Claire's eyes were wide with shock. She couldn't believe it. How did Charlie know so much about Bella's past? Her gaze shifted to Charlie, and she asked in disbelief, "Did you have her investigated?" "How could I? Where would I get that kind of power?" Charlie laughed. "A friend of mine was really hurt by Bella a while back. He's been digging up dirt on her ever since. I just didn't expect it to be so useful tonight." With that, he guided her into the elevator. As soon as the doors closed, Charlie pressed the button for the top floor. Claire quickly asked, "Charlie, did you press the wrong button? The top floor is the Sky Garden, isn't it?" Charlie smiled. "The Sky Garden is exactly where we're going." The words hit Claire like a bolt of lightning. The Sky Garden? How could that be possible? Everyone in Oris Hill knew that the Sky Garden had been booked tonight by some mysterious, wealthy person. Even with all of Charlie's hidden talents, there was no way he could book the Sky Garden for their 3rd wedding anniversary. But then, a wild idea popped into her head. Could Charlie be the mysterious man who had booked the entire Sky Garden? It seemed impossible, like a fairy tale. But right now, what other explanation was there? Thinking about it, Claire couldn't help but ask, "Charlie, did you book the Sky Garden?" Charlie smiled. "Yes, I wanted to give you the biggest surprise of your life today. A perfect wedding celebration that no one could ever replicate." "What?" Claire felt like her brain just shut down. If this was really the big surprise Charlie had planned for her, then didn't that make her the happiest woman in all of Oris Hill tonight? Her breath caught in her throat, and she could hardly think straight. Just as her mind was reeling, the elevator doors opened onto the top floor of the Aurelius Grand. A staff member at the entrance bowed slightly. "Miss Claire," he said with a smile, "on behalf of the Aurelius Grand, I'd like to offer our warmest congratulations to you and Mr. Charlie on your wedding anniversary tonight." Charlie waved his hand at the staff member. "You can all go now." Instantly, all the staff disappeared, leaving the entire Sky Garden to just Claire and Charlie. Claire felt like she was in a dream. She was standing in a massive, luxurious space. A magnificent crystal ceiling cast a clear, soft light, making the whole sky garden look elegant and serene. Soft, classical piano music filled the air, seeming to melt away any tension or worry. The air was filled with the scent of fresh, exotic flowers, flown in from overseas. The fragrance wasn't overpowering, just a subtle, beautiful scent that made everything feel peaceful. Then the music shifted, and the classic wedding march began to play, its beautiful melody echoing through the space. As Claire was taking in the breathtaking scenery, she saw Charlie walking toward her. He had changed into a handsome suit and holding a bouquet of flowers. With every step he took, shimmering red hearts bloomed across the crystal glass floor beneath his feet. The hearts seemed to dance in time with the music, creating an incredible visual effect. At that moment, outside the sky garden, a crowd of people was pressed against the glass walls and floor, trying to see what was happening inside. The only problem was that the glass of the sky garden had been intentionally blurred. They could just make out the figures of a young man and woman inside, and the beautiful flowers surrounding them. They could also see the red hearts lighting up on the floor. The women in the crowd were swooning. "This is so romantic! I've never seen anything like it in my life. If I were her, I think I'd die from happiness right now. Oh my God! That guy must be that mysterious rich man. It's a shame we can't see his face. What a tease!" The scene inside the sky garden completely captivated the crowd watching from the outside. Thousands of people stared up, their faces a mixture of awe and intense envy. Their eyes were filled with good wishes as they gazed at the grand garden that seemed to be floating in the sky. Countless women burst into tears, overwhelmed by a jealousy so strong they wished they could trade places with the woman inside, the star of this incredible night. Even though no one could see their faces clearly, they could all feel how incredibly happy she must be. Charlie walked toward her, gesturing to the sparkling city lights of Oris Hill outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. He looked at her lovingly and said, "Claire, I love you. I couldn't give you a proper wedding back then. I hope you like this one, a wedding just for the two of us." Claire finally snapped back to reality, covering her mouth with her hands as tears streamed down her face. They fell like little pearls onto the crystal floor. Hearing his words, Claire couldn't hold back her emotions any longer. She rushed forward and threw her arms around Charlie. "I love it! I really love it! Thank you! Thank you, Charlie! Thank you!" As she spoke, she cried even harder. In that moment, she felt that all the pain and disrespect she had endured for the past 3 years had been completely worth it. It didn't matter how Charlie had managed to do all this. Right now, she was happier than she had ever been. Tonight, she was the happiest woman in all of Oris Hill. Through the blurry crystal glass, the whole city of Oris Hill watched this incredibly grand wedding. And while tons of people were super envious, they were also wondering who the couple getting married in the sky garden was. The couple was a total mystery. It was just the two of them at the wedding, no family, no friends, not even a witness. On the crystal platform, Charlie took Claire's hand and pulled out a jade necklace he had waiting for her. "Claire, this is your wedding anniversary gift. I hope you like it." Claire looked at the flawless diamond necklace and, "Isn't this the masterpiece from the rare earth?" "Charlie, where did you get it?" As she spoke, Claire was stunned. Could Charlie be that super rich guy from the video? How else could this diamond necklace be in his hands? But no, that can't be right. She knew Charlie better than anyone. How could he be some super rich guy? He was the complete opposite of rich. Seeing Claire's surprise, Charlie felt a sudden urge to tell her the truth, to reveal his real identity, that he was a descendant of the powerful Wade family and the heir to a fortune worth trillions. But just as quickly, a serious thought stopped him. He had no idea what the situation with the Wade family was right now. He remembered meeting his uncle when he was a kid, which meant his father wasn't the only son in his generation of the Wade family. And if he had uncles, they probably had kids of their own, heirs. Those cousins would definitely see him as a threat. If he revealed his identity without knowing the full picture and without the power to protect himself and Claire, he was afraid she would be killed. Rich families could be ruthless when it came to fighting over money. He couldn't risk his beloved wife's safety. Thinking about this, he decided to lie. "This necklace looks exactly like the one from the rare earth," he said, "but it's actually a copy I had someone make. It's made with good jade, but it's nowhere near the quality of the one from the rare earth. This one cost me tens of thousands." Then Charlie asked Claire nervously, "Claire, do you not like it?" Claire felt a wave of relief. That made a lot more sense. She smiled and said, "Silly, how could I not like it? You've done so much. I'm beyond moved." Charlie let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding and quickly fastened the jade necklace around Claire's neck. He looked into her eyes with sincerity and said, "Claire, I know you've put up with a lot being married to me for the past 3 years, but starting today, I promise no one will ever bully you again." Claire nodded, her heart full. In that moment, she realized her husband was finally stepping up. When the night was over, Charlie quietly led Claire to a private elevator in the Sky Garden. The crowd of onlookers felt a sense of disappointment. Had the hero and heroine already left? It was like they appeared out of nowhere, gave the world a glimpse of this incredible romance, and then just vanished. Arya's real face. For a while, the whole city was buzzing about the huge wedding, but nobody knew who the happy couple was. Charlie drove the 520, which was actually a modified 760, and took his wife home. On the way, Claire was still lost in a haze of happiness, replaying the last few hours in her mind. She couldn't help but ask Charlie, "How did you book the Sky Garden? I thought they never did private events, right?" Charlie smiled and said, "Honestly, a top executive at the Aurelius Grand is an old friend of mine from the orphanage. We went through some tough times together. I mean, we used to split a single dinner roll between us. So I asked him for a favor this time, and he really came through." Claire nodded. "Oh, I see. How come you've never mentioned him before?" Charlie said, "I had a lot of friends at the orphanage. It would take me 3 days and 3 nights to tell you about all of them. I just figured you wouldn't be interested, so I never brought it up." Claire said seriously, "You're my husband. Of course I'm interested in your past. I really want to know." Charlie smiled and said, "All right then, I'll tell you more." "Okay." When they got back to their neighborhood, Charlie pulled the car up to their building. He had just parked and was getting out with Claire when they ran right into her parents walking home. Her mom saw them and immediately gasped, "Claire, where did this car come from?" When her dad saw the car, his eyes lit up. "Wow! Claire, did you buy it new? This is a big deal." Claire quickly said, "Dad, Mom, I didn't buy the car. Charlie did." "Charlie?" Her dad frowned and asked, "Charlie, where did you get the money for this? Did you use our household money?" Charlie quickly replied, "No, Dad, I bought it with my own money." Her mom walked around the car looking it over and scoffed. He eats our food and lives in our house, and then he saves up to buy a car without a thought for us. What an ungrateful freeloader." Claire quickly jumped in. "Mom, don't talk about Charlie like that." Her dad's voice dripped with jealousy. "And you bought a 520. A guy like Charlie doesn't deserve a car this nice. Isn't the 3 Series good enough for him?" Her mom said coldly, "I'm telling you, your dad doesn't even have a car." "He's not getting any younger. If you don't let him enjoy things now, he might not get the chance later." Then she said angrily, "So give this car to your dad." Claire looked at Charlie and asked quietly, "Charlie, what do you think?" Charlie thought to himself, "Yeah, right. But this isn't a 520. It's a 760. Honestly, his father-in-law was a total pushover, and even Lady Wilson didn't have much respect for him. A 760 would be a complete waste on him. Thinking fast, he put on a smile. "Oh, Dad, this is just the 520, the lowest model in the 5 Series. It's basically the base model. If you drive this car around, people will make fun of you." His mother-in-law's eyebrows shot up. "What? Are you trying to get out of giving it to us?" Charlie quickly waved his hands. "No, that's not it at all. How could I? I just think you can't be driving around in a base model. So instead of giving you this 520, I'll buy you a 530. The 530 is a step up, so you'll have some status when you drive it." His mother-in-law frowned and asked, "And you have the money to buy a 530? Charlie said, "I only put a down payment on this car, and I still have some money left over. Don't worry. I'll buy you a new car first thing tomorrow morning." The second her parents heard Charlie promise to buy them a better car tomorrow, they were all smiles. Her dad had no idea he'd just missed out on a top-of-the-line 760. Claire was still a little worried, though. After they went back to their room and got ready for bed, she quietly asked Charlie, "Do you really have enough money to buy another car? I have some savings. You can take and use them." Charlie quickly waved his hand. "No, don't worry. I have enough." Claire apologized, saying, "I'm so sorry. I can't believe my parents are like this." Charlie smiled and said, "What are you talking about? Your parents are my parents now. We're a family, and it's only right to take care of them." With that, Charlie lay down on his makeshift bed on the floor and smiled. "Don't worry. I'll buy them another one first thing tomorrow morning." Claire said, "Charlie, thank you." Charlie, "Hey, what are you being so formal for, my wife?" Claire blushed and asked, "Aren't you going to be cold sleeping on the floor tonight?" Charlie, "Nope, not cold at all. Don't worry, I'm fine." Claire, "Well, if you're not cold, then just go to sleep, you idiot." She was finally trying to invite him into bed, but the idiot was completely oblivious. That's when it finally dawned on Charlie. He'd just missed a huge hint. So he quickly said, "Oh, honey, you know what? It's actually freezing down here. I'm starting to shiver." Claire said, "If you're cold, then grab another blanket." Charlie's hopes sank. After a few moments, he decided to try again. "Honey, I think the temperature dropped. I'm really cold now." Claire ignored him, kicking a blanket off her bed and onto the floor. She said, "How cold can it be on a summer night? If you're still cold, I can find you a winter coat to wear." Charlie was devastated. It looked like his wife really wasn't going to let him sleep in the bed tonight. The next morning, Claire was getting ready for work. Charlie made her breakfast, handed her the key to the car, and said, "Why don't you drive to the office today?" Claire hesitated. "It's your car. Is it really okay for me to drive it to work?" Charlie said, "Of course. You're my wife. The car was always for you, not for me." Claire nodded and said, "Thank you." After that, she took the key from him. Her dad, who was standing nearby, looked on with envy. "And Charlie, you said you were going to buy me a car. You didn't forget, did you?" "I didn't forget," Charlie said. "Just hang tight. I'm going to buy it for you today. You just wait for me to drive the new car home." Her dad's face lit up with a smile. "All right then, I'll be waiting." "A 530, that's what you said. Don't get the wrong one." Charlie chuckled, nodded, and said, "Dad, don't worry. I'll buy you the 530 today." After that, he followed his wife downstairs and pulled his little electric scooter out of the trunk of the 760. Claire drove the 760 to work, while Charlie rode his electric scooter back to the dealership. As he got close to the dealership, he happened to pass by the entrance of the same dealership he had left in rage. The salespeople at the dealership spotted him first. One of them blurted out, "Holy crap! It's the guy who bought the 760, and he's back on that little electric scooter. Man, I don't care if we have to beg, another said. We have to stop him and sell him a fully loaded Gravix Elite from here. Let's go. Suddenly, a whole group of salesmen rushed out and swarmed around him. Sir, come to our dealership and check out the latest top-of-the-line Gravix Elite. Sir, our Gravix Elite is incredibly powerful. It's got a W12 engine, which is even better than the V12 in the 760 from the other manufacturer. Charlie asked, Is that so? It's true, a salesman jumped in eagerly. Listen, let me tell you, our W12 engine has a feature where you can shut down half the cylinders. When half of the 12 cylinders are off, you're only running on 6, which saves a ton of gas. Charlie said with a smirk. So, I should buy a 12-cylinder car just to turn off 6 of the cylinders to save gas. Wouldn't it just be easier to buy a 6-cylinder car in the first place? The salesman's face turned red as he realized his mistake, and he stammered, unable to find a response. Charlie sneered at them. I know what you're all thinking. You're just upset that I bought a 760 yesterday, so today you're trying to suck up to me and make me your customer, right? The group of salespeople all nodded quickly. Charlie. Well, listen up. It's too late. Yesterday you all blew me off. Today, I'm way out of your league. After saying that, Charlie pressed the horn on his little electric scooter. It let out a sharp beep. Get out of my way. I'm going to the other dealership to buy a car. A salesman ran out and yelled, Hey, you clowns! What do you think you're doing? Are you trying to steal our customers? Didn't you see he just blew you off? If you keep harassing our valued client, I swear I'll call the news and expose all of you. The Gravix Elite guys couldn't take the heat, so they had no choice but to walk away, looking defeated. The manager of the other dealership came out to greet Charlie personally and asked respectfully, Mr. Charlie, are you looking to buy another car today? Charlie nodded. Do you have a 530 in stock? I want to drive it off the lot today. Yes! The manager was ecstatic. He bought a 760 yesterday and now a 530 today. This guy was a serious VIP. So he quickly said, Sir, please come with me. I'll show you the one we have on the floor. Charlie nodded and followed him into the showroom. There was a 530 right there in the showroom. Charlie got in to check it out. He noticed that even though the car looked a lot like the 7 Series from the outside, the interior was a definite downgrade. Still, for its class, it was considered a high-end model. He was just about to pull out his card and buy the car. Just then, he heard a familiar voice say, Oh, honey, I absolutely love the X6. Will you buy me an X6? From inside the car, Charlie looked toward the voice and saw Aria, the fiancée of his college friend Darren. She was clinging to the arm of some other guy, looking way too close and flirty. Charlie frowns. He thought to himself, Aria called that guy honey. Is she cheating on Darren? He couldn't help but feel angry. He had no tolerance for people with no morals, especially when it came to being unfaithful. On top of that, Darren was always so busy with work, and here she was sneaking around behind his back. A woman like that was just disgusting. Just then, he heard the man, who had a sleazy look on his face, ask, If I bought you the X6 right now, what would you tell Darren? Darren, Aria said with a look, don't even bring up that loser. His family needs money, but he doesn't have any, and he's got no ambition. Honestly, if he weren't so predictable and easy to manage, I wouldn't be with him at all. The man, Logan Weaver, grinned and squeezed Aria's face. You're my woman now, he said. Are you still going to be with him? No one else gets to touch a woman who's with me. Aria quickly said, Don't worry, Logan. I haven't let him touch me since we got together. I think he's gross. I am all yours, Logan. Only for you. Then she explained, Actually, I was going to break up with him right after the restaurant opened. But I didn't expect that a guy he knew from school turned out to be pretty connected. He helped Darren sort out that mess with Scarface in the development zone. I just want to wait for the business to get steady before I tell him we're done and kick him out of the restaurant." Logan laughed. "Scarface? That's nothing. If you'd told me sooner, I could have made that guy apologize to you with just one phone call." Arya smiled and said, "Oh, you're the best, Logan. It all happened so fast, I didn't even think to call you. Besides, Darren was right there, and I was worried you'd be upset if you ran into him." Logan pinched her waist and said with a smiling smile, "You're a smart girl." Arya quickly rubbed against his arm and said, "So, Logan, are you going to buy that X6 for me?" Logan smiled. "All right. First, we go back to my place, and you take good care of me. Then you break up with that loser, and I'll buy you the X6 tomorrow." Arya asked excitedly, "Logan, are you serious? You'll really buy me the X6 tomorrow?" "Have I ever lied to you?" Logan grinned. "But you have to earn it first." Arya immediately winked. "Don't you worry, honey. I'll take very good care of you when we get to your place." With that, the two of them turned and left the dealership. Charlie was disgusted by the two of them. He immediately pulled out his phone and called Darren. Darren answered right away, sounding excited. "Charlie, what's up, man? What made you call?" Charlie said casually, "Just calling to check in. What are you up to?" Darren said, "I'm helping out in the kitchen at the restaurant. The lunch rush is about to start, so I'm just giving them a hand." Charlie asked, "Are you at the restaurant every day?" Darren replied, "Yeah, the restaurant just opened, so there's a ton to do. Besides, more than half the money for this place came from Arya's dad. If I don't work my butt off, they'll look down on me." Charlie asked again, "How much did you put in?" "I put in $100,000. It was all the money I'd saved up since I graduated from college." Charlie continued, "So, who actually owns the restaurant?" Darren said, "I do." Charlie asked, "Is your name on the business registration?" Darren said, "Well, no. The business registration is in Arya's dad's name. Since Arya and I aren't married yet, and her family put up most of the money, it didn't feel right to put my name on it." Then Darren added, "But her dad said that after we get married, he'll transfer ownership of the restaurant to me." Charlie shook his head as he listened. Poor guy. He had no idea he was being used. Arya was treating him like a workhorse, making him slave away at the restaurant in the development zone. Meanwhile, she was sneaking around with rich guys planning to kick him to the curb. The restaurant had nothing to do with Darren on paper. The second Arya decided to dump him, he'd be left with nothing. When that happened, not only would all his hard work be for nothing, but his own $100,000 would be gone too. Thinking about it made him even more disgusted with Arya. He asked Darren directly, "So where did Arya go just now?" Darren smiled and said, "She went to get her hair done." "Why, what's wrong?" Charlie sneered. "Get her hair done? Is that what she told you?" "Yeah, that's right." "And you believe her?" Darren asked, his voice surprised. "Charlie, what are you getting at?" "Just spit it out. Don't beat around the bush." Charlie sighed and said, "All right, I'll just tell you the truth. I saw Arya at a car dealership. She was all over some guy named Logan Weaver, calling him honey and everything. I think she's cheating on you, man." "No way!" Darren blurted out. "Arya's not like that at all." "Are you sure you didn't see someone else?" Charlie said confidently, "I'm positive it was her." "I don't believe it," Darren said coldly. "Look, Charlie, we're good friends, but that doesn't give you the right to talk trash about my fiancée." Charlie said coldly, "Darren, wake up. Your fiancée is with another guy. This Logan Weaver promised to buy her AX6. Arya's going home with him right now, and she's going to break up with you when she gets back. As your old friend, I'm telling you, you need to get ready." Before Darren could answer, Charlie went on, "You should get that painting I gave you and put it somewhere safe. Keep it. It'll give you the capital you need to start over. But if you don't believe me, then there's nothing I can do to help you with what's coming. Darren was getting angry now. Charlie, stop talking crazy. Aria is my fiancée. I know her better than anyone, and she would never betray me. If you say one more thing against her, we're done. Charlie frowned and said flatly, Fine. As a friend, I've told you what you need to know. If you don't want to believe me, there's nothing more I can do. Good luck. After saying that, Charlie hung up. What an idiot. Completely blinded by love, Charlie thought. I should have just taken a video and sent it to him. Just then, the manager of the store knocked on his window. Sir, are you happy with this 530? Charlie nodded. It's great. I'll take it. Can you get me a new one from your inventory? The manager's face lit up. Of course. Just a moment. I'll have someone bring the car around. A few minutes later, a salesman pulled up in a brand new black 530. Charlie paid with his card, folded up his little e-bike, stuck it in the trunk, and drove off. On the way home, his father-in-law and mother-in-law both called, one after the other, asking if he was back yet. When Charlie pulled up, he saw his in-laws were already waiting for him downstairs. Seeing that Charlie had actually bought a 530, the couple was thrilled. His father-in-law circled the car a few times, exclaiming, Nice car! A really nice car! I never thought I'd get to drive this. Charlie smiled and said, Dad, who knows? Maybe you'll be driving a top luxury car one day. His father-in-law laughed. Well, that all depends on you, doesn't it? His mother-in-law was just as happy, and her attitude toward Charlie had clearly improved. His father-in-law hopped in for a test drive. When he got back, he said, The car is fantastic, really comfortable, but it's a bit long for me and not that easy to handle. Charlie, you'll have to be my driver this afternoon. I have an appointment to go see someone about some things. Charlie nodded. Okay, Dad. Then his mother-in-law said, And after that, you can be my chauffeur and take me to afternoon tea with my friends. Let them see me getting picked up in a nice car for a change. Okay, Mom. After lunch, his father-in-law, Jacob, already dressed nicely, urged Charlie, Charlie, hurry up and get ready. We're taking the new car to the vintage market. There's a new Thompson House antique vase at one of the shops, and I want to check it out. Charlie couldn't help but try to talk him out of it. Dad, are you getting back into antiques again? We don't have a lot of money right now. Isn't buying antiques a little extravagant? Jacob wasn't good at making money, but he had big dreams of getting rich. He liked to wander around the vintage market whenever he had nothing to do, hoping to find a hidden treasure. But in the last few years, he'd pretty much just gotten scammed every time. He had stopped for a while, but now it seemed his hobby was back. Seeing that Charlie dared to question him, Jacob, Enough with the lecture. Just drive me there. Charlie knew he couldn't win, so he agreed and drove Jacob to the vintage market. Heir's Hill was a well-known historical city. Its vintage market, located just outside the main tourist area, was famous throughout the United States. Antique dealers and collectors from all over the country flocked there. The local tourism board had even capitalized on its popularity, spending a lot of money to renovate the market and turn it into a major tourist attraction. When they got to the vintage market, Jacob walked up to an antique shop and told the receptionist he had an appointment. The receptionist then invited them into the VIP lounge in the back to view the item. Charlie started to follow, but Jacob turned back. Don't come in. You wouldn't understand any of this anyway. Just wait for me outside the VIP lounge. Charlie nodded. Okay, Dad. With his hands clasped behind his back, Jacob followed the staff member into the VIP lounge, and Charlie took a seat in the waiting area. A few minutes later, Charlie suddenly heard a sharp cracking sound from the VIP lounge. A moment later, he saw his father-in-law stumble out, completely panicked. It's over. It's over. This is all over. Charlie hurried over and looked past Jacob. On the floor, a tall, slender ceramic vase lay in two large pieces, surrounded by smaller shards. Looking at the broken pieces, Charlie could tell it was supposed to be a Thompson period porcelain vase. Having grown up with the Wade family, Charlie knew a thing or two about antiques. He could tell at a glance that the vase was a genuine antique, something that could easily sell for several $1 million on the market. Looks like Jacob had really messed up this time. Inside the VIP lounge, a middle-aged man said with a grim expression, "Mr. Wilson, our antique porcelain vase was worth at least $5 million. Now that you've broken it, you're going to have to pay." This was Enzo Zimmerman, the manager of the antique gallery. Jacob grabbed Charlie and said frantically, "This is my son-in-law. He's loaded. Do you have any idea how much money he has? $5 million is nothing to him. Even $50 million would be pocket change. He'll pay you right now. You can talk to him. I've got to go." With that, Jacob shoved Charlie forward, turned, and bolted out the door. Charlie stood there, stunned. His father-in-law was unbelievable. This was a classic setup, leaving him to take the fall. Enzo glared at Charlie and asked coldly, "Sir, the total comes to $5.38 million. Will you be paying by card or bank transfer?" Charlie held up his hands. "I don't have any money." It wasn't that he couldn't afford it. He just wanted to teach his father-in-law a lesson so he'd stop coming to the vintage market every day. "No money?" Enzo gritted his teeth. "You broke our most valuable piece and you think you can just walk away by claiming you're broke?" Charlie said helplessly, "I'm not trying to hide anything. I really don't have the money. Besides, I'm not the one who broke your vase. Why should I be the one to pay for it?" Enzo was furious. "Isn't that your father-in-law?" Charlie nodded. "Exactly. He's my father-in-law, not me. The person who broke it should be the one to pay for it." Enzo was annoyed, but what Charlie said made sense. He couldn't just force Charlie to pay. That would ruin the antique gallery's reputation. So he quickly ordered his staff, "Go get that old guy and bring him back here." Charlie watched them scramble to chase after Jacob and just chuckled to himself. He could have easily paid for it with his card, but why should he let his shameless father-in-law off the hook so easily? It was better to let the old man face the consequences. Otherwise, he'd just pull the same stunt again next time. All of the antique gallery's employees took off to catch Jacob. Now that he was alone, Charlie looked down at the broken vase on the floor. The vase was about 1.5 feet tall, and now it was shattered into 2 large pieces and a pile of smaller fragments. It was a real shame. But then he noticed something hidden inside the bottom half of the vase. He quickly reached in and pulled out a small wooden box. He couldn't believe it. There was a secret hidden inside the vase. The vase had a narrow neck and a wide body. The wooden box was clearly 2 or 3 times larger than the opening. It couldn't have been stuffed in later. It must have been placed inside when the vase was originally made. This meant the wooden box must have been from the Thompson period as well. He held the box in his hands, examining it carefully. With a bit of force, he popped it open with a soft click. As soon as the box opened, a strong, pleasant scent filled the air. Charlie took a deep breath and felt instantly refreshed. Looking closer, he saw a tiny, ancient book inside, no bigger than the palm of his hand. Charlie picked up the pocket-sized book and saw 4 ancient runes on the title page, spelling out the words, "Celestial Scriptures." This title is pretty interesting. I wonder what's inside. Charlie opened the book to take a look. The first chapter was on medical arts, filled with countless case studies and treatment methods. Charlie frowned. He knew a little about holistic medicine and its basic principles, but the information in this book was clearly far more advanced than anything practiced today. Some of the diagnostic methods and treatments were completely unheard of. Towards the end of the medical arts chapter, Charlie even found sections on alchemy and potions with effects that seemed to defy modern science. Charlie was hooked. He sat right there on the floor, eagerly flipping through the pages. To his surprise, the esoteric scriptures also contained chapters on tarot card reading, various mystical techniques like treasure inspection and restoration, and a lot of other strange and wonderful things. Charlie read for a long time, feeling as if every word was being etched directly into his mind. His heart pounded with excitement. This was an incredible treasure. Charlie was ecstatic and quickly tried to tuck the mystic texts into his coat. But as he did, the book instantly turned to dust and vanished. However, every single word from the book was now perfectly etched into Charlie's mind. Just then, Jacob was dragged back in by a few big, tough-looking guys. The red, swollen marks on both sides of his face showed they hadn't been gentle. Seeing how pathetic he looked, Charlie had to fight back a laugh. This old fool gets himself into trouble and then tries to blame me for it. Letting him learn his lesson was the right punishment. Jacob was completely humiliated. He had tried to make a run for it and was totally out of breath. He was old, out of shape, and couldn't run fast. How could he possibly outrun these younger guys? So after just a few steps, they caught him, tied him up, and slapped him around a few times. He looked absolutely miserable. The men dragged Jacob back in front of Enzo, who gritted his teeth and snarled, "You old goat! You think you can break our vase and just run off? You're not going to stiff the antique gallery." Jacob, terrified, stammered, "I didn't mean to. The vase was just too slippery." Enzo shot back coldly, "Cut the crap! I'll give you until this afternoon to get the money. If you can't pay up, I'm calling the cops and reporting you for intentional destruction of property. A case worth over $5 million is enough to put you in prison for a long time." Jacob was trembling with fear. He looked at Charlie like he was his last hope. "Charlie, my dear son-in-law, you have to save me. I'm ruined." Charlie said helplessly, "Dad, I don't have that kind of money." Jacob blurted out, "Then you can go to jail for me. Our family has taken care of you for this long. It's time you paid us back." Charlie was stunned. How could the man have the nerve to say something like that? Just as he was about to refuse, Enzo stepped in. The one who did the crime does the time. The antique gallery is an honest business. You broke the vase, so you have to be the one to pay for it. Then he turned to Charlie. "You're free to go, but it would be wise to help him get the money together. Otherwise, this afternoon, I'm turning him over to the police." Charlie gave a slight nod. Jacob, terrified, started crying. "My dear son-in-law, you can't just leave me here. What am I going to do if you go?" Seeing him so scared, Charlie found it hard not to laugh. But of course, he couldn't let it show on his face. He was about to make an excuse to go raise money and let the old man stew in his own mess for a while. But then he remembered the ancient method for repairing porcelain he had just read about in the book. He had an idea. "Mr. Zimmerman, if I can fix that antique porcelain vase, will you let him go?" Enzo scoffed. "And who do you think you are? You think you can just restore antiques? For your information, I've already sent photos to the top New York antique experts." Charlie just shook his head. "The vase is already broken, so it's useless as it is. What have you got to lose by letting me try? I won't make it any worse." Enzo sneered dismissively. "Fine, be my guest. I'd love to see what a clown like you can do." Charlie said, "Get me a sheet of vellum, a fine brush, and 5 eggs. And make sure the eggs are raw." Enzo, eager to see Charlie make a fool of himself, quickly found a basket of raw eggs for him. But he couldn't help but taunt him. "Using eggs to repair a historical artifact? I've never heard of anything so ridiculous. I'm warning you, don't try any funny business. Either you pay up, or we're taking your father-in-law to court. $5 million is enough to put him away for life." Charlie nodded. "And what if I do fix it?" Enzo scoffed coldly. "If you can actually fix it, and I mean really fix it, so that experts agree most of its value is restored, then you can walk out of here." "Okay," Charlie nodded. "You've got a deal. Without another word, he picked up the fine brush and drew the outline of the antique porcelain vase on the vellum. Then, he cracked an egg, making a small opening. He dipped his index finger in the egg white, carefully coated a shard of the vase with it, and pressed it onto the outline on the paper. He did this again and again, piece by piece. Slowly, the vase began to take shape on the vellum model. Everyone watched in silence, afraid to break his concentration. Soon, half an hour passed. When Charlie finally stood up, a Thompson period antique porcelain vase that looked brand new sat before them. He smiled at Enzo. "Go ahead. See if you can find a single flaw." Enzo picked up the vase, turning it over and over in his hands. Then he said with a, "Are you kidding me? You just glued it together with egg whites, and you call that a repair? Maybe I should break your leg and try gluing it back together with egg. How about that?" "Don't you dare touch that vase!" A sharp, urgent voice cut through the room from the doorway. A moment later, a stunning woman in a chic white pantsuit walked in. She had a gorgeous face and a tall, flawless figure, standing close to 5 feet 7 inches. She carried herself with an air of pure luxury. Her beautiful eyes scanned the room, filled with an icy, regal confidence, like an ice queen. The second Enzo saw her, the color drained from his face. He quickly bowed his head respectfully. "Miss, what brings you here?" The visitor was none other than the true owner of the antique gallery, Warnia Smith, the eldest daughter of the Smith family, one of the most powerful families in Oris Hill. "Warnia?" Her voice sharp with anger. "If I hadn't shown up, you probably would have burned this whole place to the ground. What is going on?" Enzo gave a pained smile and quickly explained. "A customer was looking at the vase and accidentally broke it. His son-in-law tried to fix it with an egg. I was just about to tell him that a repair like this is worthless and that we needed to discuss compensation." Warnia leaned over the antique porcelain vase, examining it closely. After a moment, her expression changed dramatically. She spun on Enzo, her voice sharp. "Let go of that now! Who told you it was okay to touch it? You have no idea what you're doing." Enzo was completely stunned. "Miss, I don't understand." Warnia snapped. "This is a newly restored historical artifact. Until the restoration has fully set, no one is supposed to touch it except the expert who fixed it. Don't you know that basic rule?" Enzo stammered. "But he just used egg whites to glue it back together. How is that a real repair?" Warnia's eyes flashed with anger. "You fool!" she scolded. "With this repair, the vase's value would have at least doubled. But because you put your greasy hands all over it, you've just cost us at least $2 million. Pack your things. You're fired. I don't want to see you here tomorrow." She remembered seeing a similar porcelain plate at an auction in San Francisco. The plate's history was fascinating. It was an antique porcelain piece from the Thompson period that had been broken during a later period. But master craftsmen from that time had repaired it using this very same technique. And because this repair method was so incredibly rare and was thought to be lost to history, the plate sold for a staggering $13 million, far more than its original value. Now this vase had been repaired by Charlie using that same lost technique. Its value was about to skyrocket. Enzo's face went pale. He couldn't believe that just by touching the antique porcelain vase, he had cost the gallery a fortune and lost his job. Warnia then asked, "Where is the man who repaired this antique porcelain vase? Take me to him